The Living Zen-podcast is a gift from the members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre to you. If you enjoy it, please be sure to let your friends know about Living Zen. If you'd like to support our community, download the Living Zen-podcast app for iPod, iPhone, and Android. One of the most meaningful ways to show your support is by becoming a part of our Sangha as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen podcast and our online e-Zendo will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also available for free on our website to all members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Tonight I just wanted to start with, for anyone who doesn't know, we had a pretty baby-full weekend at the Zen Centre this weekend. Saturday, Sonia and Russ had their first child, Edwin. And then on Sunday, just as we were finishing our chanting at the Zendo, Gwen and Corey had their baby too, Heather, they called her. And these births really reminded me of something that my teacher, Joshu Roshi, used to talk about a lot. It's something that we talk about a lot in Buddhism and Zen as a formal teaching. Pratitya samutpada, interdependent co-origination. And Joshu Roshi always used to use this example of a couple having a baby to demonstrate this principle. We don't have newcomers here tonight, I don't think, so I feel like I can kind of hit a little bit harder. So this, I'm often teaching about the activity of plus and the activity of minus, the activity of arising and the activity of dissolving. And I'm always talking about how, as we practice, it's possible for us to investigate this fundamental activity. This activity which is the activity of all things in this vast cosmos. But just the nature of talking about it, just the nature of trying to explain it, kind of undermines its vibrant dynamism, which is to say that when we talk about the activity of plus and the activity of minus, or the activity of arising and dissolving, or the activity of birth and death, it's very natural, I think, for us to take that teaching and to make it a line, to make it a linear understanding. There is birth and then there is death. But this is inaccurate. This teaching is, Roshi used to call that way of understanding things flat thinking. And he would say you have to understand this teaching in a spherical way. That as some things in this cosmos are expanding, then simultaneously some things in this cosmos are receiving that expansion. This is how all things in this cosmos function. So, for example, when we are sitting in Zazen, as we inhale, we understand that we are receiving. We are receiving the air, the breath from our environment. The breath is being given to us. The cosmos is manifesting plus, and we inhale, doing the receiving activity. And as we exhale, then simultaneously, the cosmos switches its role, transforms entirely, and becomes the receiving activity. We see this interpenetration, this mutual support, this simultaneous plus and minus in each and every activity, in each and every moment. And in each and every moment, when we make this transformation, when we arrive at the bottom of the out-breath, we have completely manifested the minus activity. There's nowhere else for this activity to go. And so naturally, there is a death, we can say. The momentum, this particular manifestation of the minus activity dies. It comes to rest. But it's not linear, as I said. The moment we reach the bottom of the exhalation, the minus activity, then naturally this plus activity, inhalation, begins. Arriving completely at the top of the inhalation, breathing in as fully as we can. We can't breathe anymore, and so there is this pause, this rest, this cessation of momentum. But even in this cessation, it's just a moment, just a fraction of a second while the activity turns. The plus activity, the inhalation, completely dies. We completely die as the person who is breathing in, and something else is born, this person who is breathing out. We like to impose or impute a continuous selfhood to both of these sides of the equations, that the person who is breathing in and the person who is breathing out are the same person. But when we investigate this activity deeply, we find that each and every activity that we engage in is its own lifetime, is its own manifestation of completeness. Each moment, each breath has its birth and has its death. And in each moment, we are born again, born anew. We could say we're born again Zen practitioners. So coming back to what I started with, what my teacher used to talk about was understanding that where do we go at the bottom of our breath? Where do we go when we arrive at the completion of the in-breath? In that moment where the momentum ceases, this pause that I was talking about, where is this thing that we call I? In our school, we understand this cessation, this pause, Roshi used to call it the manifestation of zero, emptiness, shunyata. We can call it completion. We can call it our origin or source. But I kind of like the way that the Roshi used to just say zero. When we say zero, it isn't just a void, a non-thing, but rather this zero which has as its content all things in this vast cosmos without without differentiation. There's nothing standing up on its own. There's nothing pointing to anything else and saying, oh, this is this and this is that. Complete emptiness, which has as its content all things, empty of individual self, differentiation. So the Roshi used to talk about a couple and investigating what it is to be a couple. Just two. And as a mother is pregnant, we can talk about, oh, I'm going to be a mother, or oh, I'm going to be a father. But for now, we are this couple, even a pregnant couple or an expecting couple. The activity of birth, when this child comes into the world, is a very powerful and revealing experience. Because, as my teacher used to say, simultaneously a baby and a mother and a father are born. Simultaneously, this couple dies and parents are born. Simultaneously, this previous relationship dies and a family is born. And for those of us who have had children, who have experienced this, I want you to really sort of contemplate this or investigate this and ask, is this not the case? What has been before evaporates like smoke. And this new situation arises simultaneously at once. Each individual, each role, each person completely dependent on the others in that relationship. Not dependent in like the sort of psychological therapy way, but dependent in identification. Father, mother, and baby all arise together simultaneously. This is a wonderful sort of big example of this principle of pratitya samutpada, interdependent co-origination, arising at once together. But it's not the only place. In fact, we can say that this pratitya samutpada, interdependent co-origination, is all that we can experience. There are just very few places where it's so utterly clear, so poignant, than at the birth of a child. This is something that in the traditional monastic practice is something that would be completely denied the monks. No opportunity. When I was training and Nikki was talking about having children, I remember going to the monastery and hearing Sasaki Roshi say, "I don't know why you young people come down here and get such sore knees and sore backs, all in a great effort to gain some insight into this virtue or this practice of compassion. All that you need to do is have a child." And immediately, seeing the eyes of your child, you understand self as other. Each of us, in each and every activity of our lives, has the opportunity to experience this simultaneous becoming. When we're ringing bells, when we're making bows or beating drums, when we're chanting, when we're walking, when we're driving our car, letting go of this idea that I am going to go and do this thing with that object. Letting go of these fixed concepts in our mind, things and people and situations, and recognizing that in each and every moment we return to our origin. The person who has come into the room dies, and a new self arises together with the space, together with the people in the room, together with the form and practice that's taking place in the room. This is why when we enter a room, we bring our hands together and bow. We acknowledge coming together, arising together with our environment. So when we're making music or we're making art, instead of thinking of it like, I'm going to do this thing, investigate, contemplate this together making. Take a moment to allow yourself to completely empty out of this self that has been existing before in our minds. Allow it to melt away. Return to the origin. Allow ourselves to be born anew into this new situation, not as the dominant character, not as a passive character, but in complete equality with our circumstances, with our situation. We rely on each and every other thing in this cosmos to manifest. This whole cosmos relies on who we are in this very moment to manifest. Each and every one of us, in each and every moment of our lives, manifests in this way harmoniously, or we manifest in a fixated or deluded way in which we cling to the object. We cling to the object of self. We cling to the object of circumstance. We cling to the objects of relationships. The name that's used, we use this term Zen monk in English, but this is a totally Western word. The word that's used for an ordained person in Japan is unsui, which means cloud water. And this is a descriptor of practice, or a kind of a hint of our practice. The clouds are not obstructed by objects. Water takes the shape of the vessel into which it is poured. So each of us, as we practice, whether we're monks or not, remind ourselves to allow ourselves to return to the origin, return to the source. Before we try to stand up as a self in an environment with objects, allow ourselves to embrace the world, embrace the situation, embrace the circumstance as our true home. And then as we manifesting harmoniously together with the environment, with the circumstances, with the relationships, with the objects. Not one object banging into another, but the manifestation of our original nature, unification through diversity. Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.